Warning: viewer discretion is advised. Hi friends, welcome to Meals to Unalive For, where we talk about a true crime case and make a death row meal from scratch. I'm your host, Jody Breton, and if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe both my TikTok and my YouTube. Thanks. Today we're going to be talking about Thomas Whisenhant, and honestly, I'm surprised that I had never heard of him before because he had a very interesting case to me. He is another serial killer case that I'll be covering today. Thomas was born January 29th, 1947 in Picard, Alabama. His parents were Emma and Willie Whisenhant, and he was the youngest of 4 siblings. He had 2 brothers and a sister. Supposedly, Thomas was born a little bit premature, so he was very small, even from birth, and as a result, his mother babied him a lot. In all the research that I did, it was said that he slept in the same bed as his mom until he was 7, and she had him sleep in her room until he was 16. Personally, I think that that's super weird because it was not done out of necessity. They had other rooms, so it's giving Bates Motel, in my opinion. It was said that Emma, Thomas's mother, was very demeaning. She ruled the roost, as they say, and she was cruel towards her husband, Willie, often beating him. She controlled all the money, and after having their 4th child, she refused to have any sex with Willie. Thomas and his siblings would often say that, their father would try to initiate something and their mother would scream, like, to go away or completely shutting him down, so she really wanted nothing to do with her husband. Willie definitely wasn't without his faults, though. He was an alcoholic who hardly worked and didn't do much of anything, and as a result, the family was very poor. Thomas had said that his grandmother, who was Emma's mother, was also very domineering, so he was just surrounded by very aggressive women altogether. Thomas said that when he was 12, allegedly he was sexually assaulted by 2 girls. He did go to the police and told them that the girls threatened to castrate him if he didn't have intercourse with them. The police never filed a police report, so I can't confirm or deny if this happened. A lot of people have insinuated that he was lying about it because I guess he was a pretty big liar, but either way, I can't confirm nor deny. Thomas's family said that when he became a teen, he became much more moody and violent, and who knows, this might have been a sign from his sexual assault affecting his mood altogether, or just that he became a teen and became rebellious, but we don't really know. That's just when he had some major changes. His mother, Emma, of course, tried even harder to control Thomas and would try to go everywhere to keep an eye on him. Thomas's sister had said that even if he wanted to just go down to the gas station, their mother would try to go with him. When I say everywhere, I mean she would try to go everywhere with him. Thomas began to get himself into trouble. At one point, he robbed a blind woman, among other petty crimes. And then on May 6, 1963, Thomas's neighbor was murdered. The 72-year-old widow named Lexi Hayes had been shot with a gun that was later found in the lot next to the Whisenhants. Police immediately suspected the 16-year-old Thomas. Rumors were going around that he and his friends had been playing with a stolen revolver and that Thomas had claimed that he would kill someone in the near future with it. Lexi had apparently heard him say these things and saw them with a gun, and she decided to confront them. I don't know what was said. This was just according to the kids who were there that day. Police went to the Whisenhant residence and asked Willie where his son had been. He lied and said that Thomas had been home all night. Since Thomas's family gave Thomas an alibi that kept him from being charged, Emma was watching him even more closely now. In order to escape his mother, Thomas joined the United States Air Force. He was stationed at a base near Colorado Springs until he committed his next crime. On October 25th, 1965, Thomas was alone with 22-year-old Rose Covington in the finance office of the base when, out of nowhere, Thomas attacked Rose. He grabbed a metal ashtray from the table and began beating Rose around her face and head until she lost consciousness. The attack was a total shock to Rose, as she said she didn't even know Thomas. Rose was left with severe injuries and she couldn't remember who attacked her. She spent 2 months in the hospital before she was released. Police did find a shoe print at the scene and it was traced back to Thomas Whisenhant. Thomas denied attacking Rose but was convicted of assault with the intent to commit murder. Shortly after he was convicted in 1968, Thomas was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia by a psychiatrist. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison with 10 years hard labor. Within 4 years, his sentence had been reduced to 10 years, and he was released after 7 years on November 1973. I also couldn't find where he was in prison. Everything says an undisclosed location, so I'm assuming it was some secret prison made up by the military somewhere. It was also pretty crazy that he was released early because he was not a model prisoner. Apparently, Thomas would constantly threaten the only female corrections officer, which to me is a huge red flag. After being released, Thomas gets a job at a shipbuilding company. Thomas's coworker says that he was a little weird, but nothing super out of the ordinary. During this time, Thomas meets a woman and gets married, but he starts abusing her. And I could not for the life of me figure out what her name was. I don't know if she had the internet scrubbed of her name or what happened, but I could not find it. One of the ways that Thomas abuses his wife is that he has her write a suicide note and chokes her out until she blacks out, and this happens multiple times. Thomas and his wife end up having a daughter together, and a couple months after, a woman named Patricia Hitt was murdered. The 28-year-old mother of two was working at a convenience store when she was attacked. The man beat her, then shot her in the head, unaliving her at the scene. Soon after the murder, the police do charge 2 other men for the murder and robbery, but charges were later dropped due to lack of evidence. April 1976, Thomas kills again after finding out his wife is once again pregnant. 44-year-old Verona Hyatt also was another convenience store worker in Mobile, Alabama. Thomas kidnaps Venora, then stabs her 9 times. He cuts her throat, down her thighs, mutilates her genitals, and finally he shoots her. Some of the injuries done to her body were at separate times. After unaliving Venora, he comes back to the following day to continue mutilating her. Police come up with a personality profile shortly after that had said that the killer had a very weak father, a domineering mother, and really hated women, which seemed pretty spot on. 5 months later, on October 16th, 1976, Thomas celebrates his daughter's first birthday with his family and then drops off his mother shortly after. He then sees 23-year-old Cheryl Lynn Payton at another Mobile, Alabama convenience store. Thomas kidnaps her. He drove her in his pickup truck to a secluded forest area where he sexually assaults her and then shoots her in the head. He dragged her body into the woods and fled the scene, but just like with Venora, he comes back to the body the next day. 2 men out hunting near the location of Cheryl's body run into Thomas and they tell him to leave. They go investigate the area because they think he's illegally hunting on their property, but instead they find the body of Cheryl Payton. At this point, she doesn't have any cuts or mutilation to her body, and the men go back to the house to call the police. The men lead the police to where they found the body, but it isn't there. There is, however, drag marks leading to under a board, and when they find the body again, her body was mutilated. He had cut off her breasts, slashed her stomach, and mutilated her genitals, all while the men were calling police. I can't imagine what those men must have been thinking. Like, you're just out one day hunting, minding your own business, and then you think that you run into an illegal hunter and really he had killed somebody on your property. I wouldn't even know what to think. I'd be absolutely mortified. As the police go to leave, they see someone leaving rather quickly, so they try to pull the man over, but it turns into a high-speed chase. The man, who is Thomas Whisenhant, ends up crashing his truck into a fence. He gets out and decides to run for it into the woods. I guess the police decided to call his wife and put her on speakerphone, and this apparently gets Thomas to come out, and he starts talking to his wife, and he confesses to her right there that he murdered Cheryl. After he was arrested, he confesses to all of the murders, including 72-year-old Lexi Hayes. When police finished the interview, they sent him to a psychiatric hospital to be evaluated. After that, police convict Thomas of just the murder of Cheryl Payton, and he pleaded innocent by reason of insanity. The jury did not agree, though, because they found him guilty and sentenced him to death. After the trial, a man kidnapped a taxi driver just for the purpose of getting into prison to kill Thomas Whisenhant, because apparently Thomas had killed his mother. Now, I couldn't find who this person was. I just saw that it was mentioned in multiple different articles. So I'm not sure if this was Cheryl's child or one of his other victims' children. It was just mentioned a couple different times. And how sad. Like, he loved his mother so much and was so angry that Thomas took her away that he was willing to go to prison just to see his revenge through. And what's even more sad is that it didn't work. He was unsuccessful, and he did not end up going to the same prison as Thomas Whisenhant. Thomas does try to appeal his sentence twice, but all 3 times he is sentenced to death. On May 27th, 2010, Thomas Whisenhant is executed by lethal injection. He had no last words. His last meal was a chicken leg quarter, chocolate pudding, French fries, American cheese, an orange drink, and coffee. Thomas left his belongings to Maura Tellman, who was the niece of one of the officers who arrested him. Maura wrote to him, and I guess they had become friends after speaking through letters, and she had visited him. He left her some personal items and $96 total. So for this last meal, there wasn't anything wrong with it. It just wasn't very exciting to me. It was all very basic. So I would say I'd give it a 5 out of 10. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. Also, as a side note, guys, please be safe out there. Convenience stores are not safe for women, even in broad daylight, let alone working there overnight or by yourself. So please stay safe. I would prefer that you guys didn't work there. I would not want my friends or family working at a convenience store. So if possible, please find something better for yourself because I do care about you guys. Other than that, that's all I've got for today. Hopefully you guys join me for the dissection on this episode. If not, I will see you guys next Tuesday. Bye, guys.